So, welcome everyone to the 66 Hands-on Agile meetup. Today, it's my honor to introduce Sandrine Olivencia to you. She is someone from the Agile community that went into this excursion of Lean. What does it mean? Where to go? Where this is all about? And she actually wrote a book about this when she shadowed a Lean Sensei on the path to becoming a Sensei in that sense, and which won her a Shinto Prize. And she also wrote another book called The Build to Sell, The Lean Secret to Crafting Irresistible Products, which will be the major part of today's talk and Q&A session. So I think this is going to be really exciting for everyone because this is what we're all interested in, how to figure out what is worth building and actually how to build this. So it's going to be a very interesting evening. As usual, I will have a small parking lot available for your questions for Sandrine, because we will have the opportunity to ask some questions. There will be a Q&A session after the presentation. And unless there are urgent questions from the audience, I would say, Sandrine, the stage is yours.
The floor is mine, the virtual floor. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Stefan, for inviting me. And indeed, let me introduce myself real quick. So I'm Sandrine, and I'm French and part American as well. I lived in the U.S. for a very long time, and I'm a software developer at heart. Okay, for the longest time. So I've been living, if I want to say, in the software and digital world for 27 years. So it's been a while. And I started my career in the 90s in Michigan, in the United States, then moved to California. And then after a very very difficult 5-6 years experimenting with waterfall methodologies, I was happy to discover Agile in California when it came out, and that was, to me, quite a breath of fresh air. You probably recognize this manifesto, which I'm showing on the screen right now. You're probably familiar with this, right? I assume. I discovered Agile then in 2001 in San Francisco, where I used to live. And to me, it was a complete game changer. Okay. And not just me, it was like breaking out of a straitjacket, really. And it was not just me. The Agile Manifesto, we know, transformed the way millions of us, developers and product folks, techies, right, approached building software and digital things. But here's the kicker, is that in my personal experience, and not just my experience, over time, Agile has splintered into different frameworks and methodologies, right? And somewhere along the way, I feel that Agile has lost its soul, right? I mean, and to me, the soul of Agile is the craftsmanship that went into designing and developing products. I mean, to me, the pioneers of Agile, those people who are all men, by the way, at the time, these pioneers of Agile were real tech code people, right, to their core, and their passion for technology drove the movement. And software, the tech, the code is the product foundation. Somehow the spirit of software craftsmanship or artisanship, because craftsmanship is not as politically correct anymore. So artisanship got lost in the push for frameworks and deadlines and delivery. I'm not saying we don't want to deliver. We don't need. It's not that we don't want deadlines, but we have put aside the aspect of craftsmanship. And what I mean by craftsmanship is, I'll explain. That's what this presentation is really about. But craftsmanship is really about like putting quality and emotion and value at the core of how we design products. because designing and building a product is not just about ticking off tasks in a backlog and shipping features. To me, it's really a messy, I want to say a messy, highly creative process, um, where we bring the best minds together, and not just technical minds. We need designers, we need developers, we need marketing people, we need product people. It's like this combination of brilliant minds that we put together, and they were gathered to make something work. That's something, we make all these elements work in harmony. And it's hard because, physical laws and digital constraints and regulations and costs, they all come into play, right? And in designing a product. And to succeed, you have to solve those technical trade-offs between those various elements and find the right balance. To me, that's what true product design is about. It's in the detail, the patience, the craftsmanship. It's trial and error, debates, failure, and until everything clicks. And yes, like I said, we need roadmaps and delivery plans, but it's not the goal. It's a means, right? The goal is really to create a truly exceptional product. And I wanted to share something that you probably have seen this video before. It's Steve Jobs who speaks about craftsmanship. It's a recording from 1995. If you're interested, I'm going to play it, or at least part of it, just maybe a minute, because he speaks. So I'm going to stop here, but I really encourage you to go look at it, because I find that fascinating. And what I realized, that of course he's talking, he made phones and computers, so it's not just about digital. He also has to deal with the physical world of physical objects. But it's really true in software as well, where you really have to deal with different aspects and components. Today we're dealing with data, we're dealing with AI, we're dealing with different kinds of frameworks and APIs, and we have to make it all fit together. And that's the beauty of product design. That's where the craftsmanship spirit comes into play. But what happened is, in my mind, and I've discovered Agile from the very beginning. I went from the waterfall methodology to discovering Agile and being completely a real advocate, and I still am, really. I worked with Agile people, and I organized conferences in France and in the US. I was a strong advocate of Agile for the very long time, but I feel that it has shifted, really, from its roots as a collaborative craftsmanship. Collaborative, maybe, still highly collaborative, but in a very different way. But the craftsmanship-driven approach, to a more delivery process kind of focused, where the roles are fragmented, and each role has limited influence. And when I see product owners, there's some really good product owners, managers, tech leads. I don't want to make it like this generic statement that everybody's like that. But in my personal experience, and from what I'm seeing and reading, this is quite widespread. Product owners, managers spend much of their time juggling backlogs, endless backlogs. It's like they never end, and they keep collecting requests from customers and internal teams, which of course it's normal. But they spend a huge amount of time prioritizing features and then getting into these debates. And usually it's the person who yells loudest who wins, and it's really complicated. And then I see a lot of developers who are far removed from the real field, from the customer, and then they often are on the receiving ends of what the POs and the PMs give them, executing the plans almost, under the pressure to deliver quickly, often, and at the expense of quality. And I hear all the time developers saying, "We don't have time to do quality. This is not possible," etc. So to me, this divide runs really deep. And this disconnect leads to the communication breakdowns in our organizations, and the rework that we're too familiar with, which, our products in the end, because of that, are not as stable, scalable as they could be, and they don't resonate as well with our users most of the time. I find that, it's a cycle that undermines the very principle Agile was set out to achieve at the very beginning. Frameworks like Scrum and SAFe, okay, they're effective for coordination. They do scale well, true. With all the organization, the rituals, and of course they talk about quality as well. But from a process point of view, they do prioritize processes, rituals, and over the artisanship. That what Steve Jobs was talking about, over the artisanship, that it really ensures quality at the core. And what I see is that we know how to scale the processes, because when Agile became popular and widespread, the consultants took over it, the methodologies, and then standardized them, and they picked the tip of the iceberg, and we did not know, we couldn't figure out how to scale that artisan spirit within the digital world, in my mind, from what I'm seeing. But building a product to me is not simply a construction exercise. It's not just, like, let's add this or that feature. It's really a problem-solving exercise. Like, what should we do to obtain this result, right? And with every new iteration, a new innovation, to change the product, we need to reevaluate what is happening on the market, right? We have to ask ourselves, and when I say ourselves, it's like the team, not just the tech or the PO or whatever, or the marketing, or they're like a team needs to ask themselves different questions. Are we resolving still the right problem for our customers? Do we understand really what's most important to our customers? Are there new players in the game, changing the game, and they're cracking new things that, we don't understand? Are technology still pertinent, and so on, right? Where is society pushing us? Are we spending too much money here or there that prevent us from scaling safely? So each problem-solving cycle is what I call a VAVE cycle. All this, I've learned, I've discovered lean, and you'll see that I've integrated a lot of a lean in my approach. And this VAVE comes from lean engineering, the value analysis, value engineering. It's a cycle where you have an opportunity, with the multidisciplinary team has the opportunity to ask themselves all the questions that I just shared with you, and not just filling the next train with a bunch of new features. That's how I see it. And in fact, if you look back at the history of Agile, you'll find that it has some of its roots, not all, but some of its roots in lean principles. And that dates back over a century ago, when Toyota introduced automatic looms, like back in the late 1800s, sorry. They've always, they started with looms and not cars, at Toyota. And they integrated the craftsmanship inside these automatic looms, where the looms would stop by themselves as soon as they saw that a thread broke, and that allowed the operator, the human worker, to address the problem promptly. And so that allowed them to preserve the quality and the beauty of the fabric, while going fast and spending less money on rework and fixing problems, right? And today, in the manufacturing world, so we went from the artisan era to mass production, and then all this time, Toyota has always stood out by embedding the very artisan spirit that they started with into their DNA from the very beginning. And in their factories, even their early factories, and even today, because I visited them in Japan, and it's fascinating to see that they have cultivated a quality-driven culture that actually has laid the foundation for decades of innovation. And this ethos really scaled as the company grew. They really managed to build artisanship at scale, and they are able to infuse that at every stage in the process, whether it's design, conception, production, delivery. You see, when you go to Japan in a Toyota factory, you see workers on the line. They're trained. They're training all the time. Even if they're really good at it, they're trained all the time, because the point is to develop their ability to recognize where it is good, not good. This is quality. right? This quality, this true craftsmanship. The quality is a feeling, it's a sensation. It's being able to recognize what is good, not good, to self-check, to uphold your own quality standards and actively contribute your creative ideas to enhance the product's excellence, right? And all this at Toyota is what transforms all the workers into artisans of sort, right? Artisans of their crafts. And if you go even farther, further down the line, you have some inspectors, quality people, quality inspectors. They even manually look for defects, and I've seen them do. It's really fascinating. You know, they wear white gloves, and then they rely on tactile sense for quality, right? It's that feeling of quality, and they're constantly training to recognize that. So Toyota has managed to reimagine artisanship for modern industry. And since then, they have been shaping the car, mainly, but not just industries, but even in services and the tech now, it's really spreading. But they've managed to really reimagine artisanship for modern industries. So what do we see? We see that, oh yes, there's another role. There's something else that Toyota, very, very important here, Toyota introduced, and that's a role that they call the chief engineer. It's fascinating, the chief engineer, because the chief engineer is not a manager, and they don't have any hierarchical authority. They lead by influence, and they're like the Steve Jobs, if I may say, of the product, right? In the company, they're visionary, but they're also really the integrator, like the orchestrator. And they basically are responsible for making sure that all these different aspects, technology, finance, marketing, product, are reconciled to create a homogeneous whole, right? And so they're visionary, and on top of it, they're the big orchestrators. And this chief engineer, like you see the really good Chika Kako, who's the latest engineer of the Lexus, the chief engineer ensures that every team contributes to the unified vision. They actually are responsible for perpetuating the artisanship spirit throughout the organization and to drive innovation. So that doesn't mean that you don't have teams delivering, building, and whatnot. It just means that this role actually is outside of the org chart, and really making sure that they break the silos to create cohesion in the organization. So now, today, we're at new crossroads, right? The digital era. Hey, it's us. Our time to play the game, right? And the tech world thrives on speed and adaptability for good reasons, because we don't have the same physical laws, right? We have different rules, and we can go faster, and so it's very different from industry. However, let's face it, from everything I've said before, the focus is not on quality anymore from the way I see it. I want to be fair that software teams have not completely abandoned quality, and in fact, the roots of craftsmanship in tech product design stretch back to the 90s, right? We saw it, we heard it with Steve Jobs, notably, but not just. And in 2008, Robin Martin introduced the concept of software craftsmanship, even. So the idea championed the very values of building robust, scalable solutions with care, skill, and pride. Practices like extreme programming, which I used for many years when I was coding a lot back then. And extreme programming, for instance, was created to embody these principles. It emphasizes continuous improvement and a real hands-on approach to quality. I myself vividly remember using extreme programming on a biotech project in San Francisco in my early days, and like 2002, 3, 4 approximately, and later on in France as well on banking applications. Pair programming didn't feel like you were working. I mean, it's funny, but I really like to say that it felt like solving puzzles together. Right. And I love that. I love pair programming. At some point with my team, we were like doing 100% pair programming. The refactoring activity brought satisfaction because we polished the code all the time to make it scalable. and avoid technical debt in the first place. Test-driven development ensured that people were constantly challenging themselves about their own code. That's how we integrated the self-check that we saw earlier with Toyota. And so to me, those were acts of artisanship. They were instilling pride in building something truly exceptional, step by step, and designed to stand the test of time. But then what I see, and I strongly believe that Silicon Valley's emphasis on speed and rapid delivery took hold. And this is when the craftsmanship spirit began to wane. Startups and even established companies alike in the digital world now live by the mantra, fail fast, pivot faster. And it's all driven by Silicon Valley culture. Maybe I'm missing something, but this is what I'm seeing in my work and among within my network. And it's to the point where last week we had I had this roundtable around my book. Okay, I invited several people, and there's the CTO from New York City who shared a very interesting anecdote. He said that the term software craftsmanship has even been banished, completely banned by his managers and leaders because they're concerned that it might slow down progress. Isn't that interesting? I mean, he even used the nuclear word. And so to me, here's the paradox of all this, is that this obsession with speed in the digital world often leads to bloated systems and mounting technical debt and a loss of agility in the end. And as a result, digital products, they move quickly to the market, right? But they lack the polish and the emotional resonance and also the quality that is needed for long-term success. So I have a question, and I've been asking myself this question for the past few years, and this is what Build to Sell is really about. Can the digital world learn to embrace speed while nurturing artisanship? So we can be fast and agile, but still continue to create scalable, robust products that create a real emotional connection with our users. And how can we scale that mindset even as the company grows? So I would like to share today 3 less valuable lessons. There are several valuable lessons that I could share, but I've chosen 3 because these are the 3 that I believe we can, in the digital world, we can learn from, and we can start practicing with immediately and relatively easily, if I may say. And these are the 3 that I'm going to be presenting. Whether you're like you work for a tech startup or in industry, maybe your software team in an industry, I think you can introduce these in your teams to start cultivating more of an artisan spirit without slowing down. The first lesson is what I called emotion-centric design. So imagine it's hot, sunny day, you're parched, really thirsty, and you grab a soda, because it promises refreshment and it evokes this emotion of cooling relief, right? And you drink it, and what happens is that it's too sweet. It's lukewarm. It's not so cold and invigorating as you had hoped. And so the experience leaves you disappointed and even frustrated, right? So the next time you'll probably not buy the soda, even if the marketing is compelling. And this proves that generating emotions is not just the realm of marketing. Emotion-centric design really means crafting every customer touch point, whether it's, they're researching for a product or buying it or using it, whether they're seeking support. And we should craft the product so that it evokes and connect with the user's emotions at every single touch point. Every aspect of the product has its part to play in delivering a consistent and emotional experience. As a matter of fact, an emotion is an engineering challenge. And when I say engineering, I'm talking to not just people who are engineers. I use the word engineering as conception, conceiving. building, right? So it doesn't concern just like people who graduated from an engineering school. An emotion is an engineering challenge, like Steve Jobs was explaining earlier. Creating an emotion means mastering the product's technology to replicate the sensation we want to create consistently, right? It's an engineering challenge. And if we take the can of soda, I'm sorry, it's the engineering challenge is the sound that it makes when it's open, right? And it triggers a chill of anticipation. So the emotion should generate a physical reaction. An emotion is physical. So if you're trying to understand what is the main emotion that you want to generate with your product, you should think of a physical reaction, like a memory, a chill, a tear, shivers, you name it, right? What happened, but what engineering or technical innovations do we need to implement to maintain the perfect level of carbonation, of temperature, or flavor consistency in order to deliver that chill with every sip? And this is where the artisan spirit is crucial, because an artisan knows how to communicate emotions through their creation. So, and often people tell me, yeah, but everybody has different memories and lives. How can we cater to all these different emotions within a single product, right? We don't want to create a jack of all trade products. And well, we have to look for what I call the dominant emotion within a single segment. For instance, a warm blanket might evoke the comforting emotion of being enveloped in a mother's embrace. That's a dominant emotion. So, not every product needs to evoke emotion, right? Or does it? Well, I think that ignoring the emotional aspect from the start can mean missing vital opportunities. I'm going to give you an example. Vago. I work with them in the UK, and Vago is an online temporary insurance company. It's 100% digital. So supposedly 100%, but they have like people in the back helping out as well and supporting. When I asked the CEO and the CPO at the time, that was a few years ago, about the dominant emotion they wanted their product to evoke, they both laughed at me and they said, "This is insurance. What do you think? Insurance is just a commodity. People are only interested in low prices." So they had designed their entire product strategy around low prices. But after diving into their customers' world, they analyzed support tickets. We did that together. We conducted job to be done interviews. We conducted observations, with a lean eye. They found plenty of emotions. For instance, I remember that one vividly because I was there that day. There was a proud father who was preparing to send his son off to college. And he bought weekend car insurance with Vago so his son could borrow the car for a special weekend with his girlfriend before leaving home for a few years to go to college, right? And this gesture was not just practical. It was a symbolic act of trust and of good parenthood. And actually, the father expressed it that way, marking a meaningful rite of passage into adulthood. And all these new insights that led the Vago team to create new services and tools specifically for parents who became a significant client base. Emotion matters, even in the most unlikely places. You just have to go look for them. So that was the first lesson. The second lesson from Toyota that I would like to share with you today is what I call the performance-based product approach. Okay? I'm going to give you another example. Let's meet Andrew Davis. Okay, he's the CPO of AutoRabbit, and that's a company that specializes in Salesforce release management tools. Something serious. Their flagship product is called ARM, A-R-M, or A-R-M, yes. And ARM was built a few years ago, and it has fallen into what I call the common trap of feature frenzy, like I described earlier. Andrew and his team, they receive constant flood of feature and change requests from customers and stakeholders all over the company, and they have a gigantic backlog of features and a wish list, right? With some that date back from like years ago. And they have so much in that backlog, probably definitely more than that can ever be added to their product. Prioritizing all these tasks and requests alone takes a massive toll on them. And what's worse is that nobody's ever satisfied with the new releases because everybody's like constantly fighting. Why not my feature? Why not? And I find that this is such a common path in software design and development. I see it all the time. I don't know you guys, but I see it all the time. And it's, to me, it's one of the weak points of Agile, or at least the Agile, the way I see it being implemented in companies today, to be fair. So the AutoRabbit new product called Flow Center was led by the chief product engineer called Surya. She was a PM, but she became a chief product engineer, and so she decided to try this different approach. She said, "Okay, let's try something different. We have a brand new product. We want to try doing something different because what we're doing is not working." So the first thing she and a few people in her team did was to go straight to the Gemba. Gemba is a word that we use a lot in Lean. It's at the center of practices, and the Gemba is the real place where the product is bought, purchased, used, consumed, supported, built. Okay, so it's really where things happen, where the value is created, where real things happen. That's the Gemba, and we really believe in the Gemba in Lean and Lean engineering. So Surya listened, and a few people in her teams listened to sales calls. She collected lots of client stories. She interviewed people. She observed them in their environment. She also analyzed a lot of customer complaints and support tickets to gain a very deep understanding of the customer's problems, but especially not just the pain points, but the key preferences. And that's a turning point. Because this is the key preferences. You'll see what they are, but it's not about like understanding what is not working. It's understanding what is really important to customers and designing your entire product around that. So building on this Gemba research, the team identified their most stable key preferences, right? We call them stable preferences because they're stable within a single segment, meaning shared. And these stable key preferences are those just few. They're usually like anywhere from 5 to 10. In the car industry, they can go much more, but 10, 15 potentially. They're the non-negotiable quality characteristics that define true customer satisfaction. So basically, the must do can fail, the things that we really have to do. Otherwise, the customers will go look elsewhere. Okay, and the radar chart that you see here is what we call a user radar chart, or not a user, or a client radar chart, showing the few key stable preferences that the team in Syria came up with from going to the Gemba. So they came up with a few really non-negotiable quality characteristics from the client perspective. You see, for instance, on this chart that the solid line reflects the client's evaluation of the product, and the dotted line shows competitors' ratings. And this visual comparison highlights strength and weaknesses very easily, and it provides the team with a very clear direction for future improvements. So we see here, for instance, that Flow Center is very strong on two key preferences compared to other products. Responsive UI and simple view of pipelines. But they're pretty weak on several. True, but it's better to be super good, perfect, and leader on a few. Ideally, you're good and you take the lead on all of them, but that's the direction that you're taking, right? But being average on all of them. So basically, the team. From going to the Gemba, understanding the customer complaints, understanding the competitors, where the market was going, the changing market conditions, they decided that improving the ease of use for the next iteration of the product was going to be a game changer. So they chose only that one impactful change, not They didn't go and load the train with a bunch of features. They decided we're going to be working on ease of use. Okay. And they chose this impactful change to keep the team and the whole organization focused and avoid spreading all of their efforts thin. And it gives them a chance to improve drastically the customer satisfaction on this one performance without taking too many bets at once, so that they can learn and go faster in the learning process, right? And once she did that, instead of building the backlog and the iteration, the sprints, and creating the user stories, she stopped herself and she said, no. First, she reframed her usual question from what features should we do add next, meaning, let's build the backlog now, to what product behaviors will most likely satisfy the user preferences, or that specific user preference. Very different point of view. And to answer this question, the team worked together, PO, PM, designers, developers, tech leads, etc., data. They defined a set of what I call the product critical performances, which is where the performance-based product terminology comes from. They built a set of critical performances which guided all of their design decisions, and that allowed them to ensure that every feature afterwards or story that they added to the backlog later on had a clear purpose. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I'm only showing you part of the table, the performance table, because it's proprietary, and but they're accepted to share one of them, and so that's what a table looks like, and that becomes really the guiding light of the whole the team throughout the design and development process. So the product critical performances, they're really measurable design constraints that you set before you decide what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and define your user stories and your features. And these measurable design constraints reflect the customer's stable preferences. Okay, so for example, here we see the users wanted an interface that was easy to use and understand. Right, that's the preference they wanted to improve. After brainstorming and experimenting with various options, the whole team, they brainstormed. Actually, sometimes, they wouldn't stop through the coffee breaks because it was so exciting. They even pushed some of the experiments all the way to prototyping to really find the best possible options before starting development. The team settled on a drag and drop system for building deployment pipelines effortlessly. And effortlessly is really important here, because they defined effortlessly as fewer than 5 manual actions. And that goal was derived from observing user habits, right? This continuous work that they do, going to the Gemba, analyzing customer complaints, understanding what competitors do, and using those lean engineering tools to have a good understanding where the market is going. Well, it allowed them to reduce the user manual actions from 20 to less than 5, which was very, very differentiating on the market, because most products were not able to do that. Okay, so this performance-based approach managed to steer the people away from the trap of feature frenzy that been going through for years. And the Flow Center team stopped bickering over features, which feature to use, or fighting over that and letting the louder voice win. They started collaborating on how to hit the performance target instead. It's a very collaborative kind of work, highly creative, highly innovative, and you're very much like Steve Jobs was describing, into this craftsmanship spirit. So yes, they managed actually to build something that really resonated with users. They did well, pretty darn well actually, and the team said that they felt more empowered. So building performance-based products instead of managing endless feature backlogs, yes, it's a big change of mindset in the digital world. But every time I've seen a team do this before jumping to building the sprint and writing the stories and you name it, whatever your approach is, it paid off immediately. First of all, the prioritization activity became easier. Second of all, the developers felt more inspired to resolve difficult challenges, and they felt that they could collaborate better with POs and PMs and vice versa. I have a PM POPM, both of them, who said that they were so excited because they'd never had such creative and interesting conversation with the developers before. So to me, this approach is one of the simplest and most immediate ways I know to cultivate an artisan and innovative mindset within an existing digital product team. I have one last practice, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm so passionate about this topic, as you probably can hear. I have one last practice I wanted to show. And so it's not so much a practice as much as role, because yes, we want to instill this artisan mindset, but we want this artisan mindset to scale over the whole organization, right? And at Toyota, they managed to do it. It's the chief engineer role who's the catalyst for perpetuating this spirit across the various departments. So I'm going to show you an example. It's another company I work with. Caroline Payou is the founder and the CEO of Ignition program. It's a French leader in recruitment and training. They have this digital platform, but they also provide services along with this platform. And Caroline built her company by crafting really innovating offerings, very differentiating from the regular recruitment agency. And she refined this offering with her team over the years, which is what led to great success for the company. But the recent economic downturn, which I don't know you guys, wherever you are, but here in France and in the States, it's hitting us hard, right? And it hit the company hard. Budgets are tightening. The demand is decreasing. And in this really highly competitive market of recruitment and HR, demand is decreasing. I mean, the pressure to deliver impeccable services and to identify new value opportunities really is becoming urgent. So in her search for a better strategy, Caroline turned to Lean. I'm not going to show you exactly how she did this because it's not the point of my presentation, but I just wanted to show you that she really began by focusing on improving the quality and the lead time in delivering her services because she needed to keep afloat. In a highly competitive market, you need to be the best to take whatever share is there, right? The average people will disappear. And they really did an amazing job. As you can see, I'm not going to go through those results. I'll let you read them, but they're really fantastic. In only 7 months, these improvements were nothing short of spectacular, and it bought them time. But it's not enough. The next critical step for them is to reevaluate their offer. And Ignition program, like I said, they digitized their part of their customer experience to facilitate notably the candidate and recruiter matching, But their mission, because it's always been to go beyond just being a recruitment agency, they wanted to provide really personalized guidance to the job seekers and the recruiters. And so they heavily focused on their selling efforts, right, to craft tailored journeys. And they spend less time designing and refining their services as a cohesive, scalable product. And so far, they've only applied the product design approach to the digital part of their service, even though the majority of the experience from the customer point of view is delivered by human interactions. And for them in particular, and it's not just for them because I see it all the time, truly, fully 100% digital businesses don't exist. There's always something behind: logistics, warehousing, service. So you have to look at it from the whole product point of view, not just the platform. A product is a set of experiences in different situations. And the tech part of the digital part is just an enabler. Sometimes the enabler accounts for 100%, at 90%, other times 20%. But that's always the case. And for Ignition program, a better strategy, especially for a growing company with a diverse customer base, was to balance a sales-led and a product-led approach. And I see a lot of companies that spend so much of their effort on developing sales strategy. And you need to be able to balance that. And it's very true in highly competitive markets. You need both. You need this balance to ensure focus on both immediate revenue and long-term customer satisfaction. So with the guidance of her Lean Sensei, me, Caroline is now shaping a product-based strategy for Ignition program. So what does that mean? That means she's putting together a team of chief product engineers that she's picking from existing team members, including 2 who have been there since the beginning, so they know the product, the company, and the market relatively well. And like at Toyota, these new chief product engineers, they take on the critical role of balancing customer value, technology, and finance to craft their product. They're not just like, looking at the design or the technology, whatever. They're really trying to oversee everything, and they work with the various experts and specialists. What you need to understand is that a chief product engineer is not tied to a specific role, like a product owner, a product manager, or tech lead. It's more of a responsibility and a mindset, and they can emerge, these people, these profiles, these roles, from any part of the organization. It could be a product owner who has a strong passion for customers, but also is willing to develop a good understanding of the product and its technologies, or a tech lead who is really interested in developing this passion, visceral passion for customers, and so on, right? But one thing that I don't see product teams do is developing a commitment to optimizing costs to enhance value and profitability. Usually product costs, are managed by either finance or marketing. And at some point, if the product or the company is not performing well, finance is going to look at cost from the global point of view, and they're going to start cutting cost because they don't get an understanding of really what's happening. So in the lean engineering, the costs management becomes the responsibility of the product engineer. And when I say, remember, engineer is not necessarily a trained engineer. Caroline works closely with each of her product engineers. She practices the tools I presented earlier. She analyzes the discovery, she explores the solutions with everyone, and she's very hands-on. It's like this a mentorship system. She mentors them, and then each new senior chief product engineer will mentor the next generation, and that's how you create an organization of chief engineers and you deploy that craftsmanship, artisanship spirit in the company. Caroline, by doing this, she directly passes on her vision, market insights, and her passion and history for the product, right? And she embeds these ways of thinking into the team's daily work. I know we're running out of time. I hope not too much, but I want to show you this video that they took last week. We went on the Gemba, so I visited them, and I see Caroline here and Violet, one of the chief product engineers, and they're talking about the product, one of the products, which is the training program. Okay. And Violet is the chief product engineer, and Caroline is visiting her, and she's using the customer radar chart and tool. And she is also using the competitors tear down practice that you'll see to pass on this mindset. I'm going to play this. It's not very long. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, sorry, it's in French, but I added subtitles.
Ce qui est intéressant, c'est qu'on est vraiment venu un petit peu étudier ce qui était le plus important finalement, tu vois, pour les managers conformes.
Ouais.
Et il y a un sujet sur lequel je ne compte pas assez dire aujourd'hui, dans la progresse, c'est le fait que quand je me dis comme master management, ils sont un peu seuls et pas vraiment qui d'aide, tu vois, il y a pas d'intersaison, les faits. Et donc là, ils faisaient nous dire en faisant ça, et ils me vraiment, bon, il y a autant, au moment d'innovation, soit en deux médias avancés sur ce sujet, d'accord, c'est vraiment, ça semble accessible. Oui, ça semble carrément accessible. Et pour compléter un peu ça, on a fait une étude de la concurrence, le monde des médecins concurrents, et vraiment, ça m'intéressant, et je t'ai mis quelques-uns maintenant. Et même, tu vois, une forme d'intercession. Il faut m'invocation et du coaching individuel. Et ma question de nouveau, c'est est-ce que c'est obligatoire? Est-ce que pour les gens achètent chez eux, ils achètent le package formation plus coaching, ou est-ce qu'ils peuvent dissocier les deux? Et pas, ils prennent de 6 personnes par module, alors que nous, on est à 20. D'accord, je me dis, ça me questionne aussi, tu vois, est-ce qu'ils prennent plus cher, ils prennent plus de personnes?
Enfin, si tu avais vu quelqu'un qui avait cela, on demandait à Nison coaching et je lui demandais c'est ça.
Non, quelqu'un a juste envoyé presse pour l'instant. On a fait un petit direct de la presse, mais il n'est pas en train de lever, ça doit être pas quand je les dates pour voir s'il faut qu'on rajoute du coaching individuel, éventuellement du coaching collectif. Mais voilà, c'est un peu ça.
Okay, so I hope you managed to follow. Maybe in the replay you can look at it. But basically, oops, sorry, I'm going to stop it. But basically, they're talking about how you see on the right hand side, you see their radar chart, and with some of the key preferences. And one of them, they're not rating so well, a 3 out of 5 only, and all this, they're not just imagining it, right? They're validating this on the Gemba, to reuse that word, and they come up with this, and they're constantly refining that model and their understanding of the customer preferences, because the market changes so fast. And so, like here, they have only a 3 out of 5 on one of the really vital preferences of their customers, and their customers are managers, right? Who get their training programs, and they're kind of like not so happy about the fact that between workshops, they don't feel supported as well, right? So here it's not saying that they're not happy. It's saying we want to be supported throughout. We want guidance. All right. This is really important for us. And this is one of the really important things that we're looking for in a management training program. And here, what Violet is saying, the chief product engineer, is that they're rating 3 out of 5 based on their understanding of the market. And when they compare themselves to an existing competitor, then they're realizing that the competitor is doing something very different. For instance, they're proposing coaching in between. So that doesn't mean that they're going to do exactly the same thing, but it really opens tons of possibilities. It's a way for the team members to innovate, to think about new ways of resolving that problem. And this is really what I mean by performance-based product. And here, what I just demonstrated, this collaboration that you see between the founder passing on to Violet that artisanship spirit. It's about building a mentoring system in the company to ensure that the spirit of innovation and artisanship lives on even as the company grows, and so that it allows them to build resilience. They're always one step ahead everybody else. They're always understanding what is happening on the market as it's happening or even before, so that they can be more resilient and weather crisis more easily when that happens, right? So the engineering tools that they're practicing together are, in that case, like I said, the client radar chart and the competitor steer down. And these are frameworks that they use to build the chief product engineer organization and culture. You see that it's akin to apprenticeship, right? Like an apprentice, and where the experienced leaders pass on their knowledge, vision, and craftsmanship to the next generation. And in that system, the cornerstone of it is the chief product engineer role. This is how Toyota managed to perpetuate this, even as they became such an enormous international company. And if we take a step back and we look at the wider digital landscape, we see that the most successful companies, like Apple, Airbnb, Slack, you name it, are product-led. Product-led organization really drives growth through exceptional products designed to sell themselves, at least, and in these companies, the founder often stays involved in the product vision, in one way or another, and they mentor the next generation of leaders. So to conclude my presentation, how can we prepare for the future? Okay. I was blown away when I was in San Francisco last August with the Waymo. I was like, wow, they're rolling computers, right? It's really fascinating. And I realized that it's not just a digital era. I mean, we're at an era where digital and industry are converging, right? So how can we prepare for the future? What can each of us do to adapt and thrive in this evolving landscape? Here's my take on it. If you're in digital, like me, maybe we can start thinking about a little more seriously about how to create products that truly connect with the customers. And of course, I know that a lot of us want to do this, and as the leaders or the investors that push us in a different direction. But I'm talking to the wider population here, and I'm saying we should create products that truly connect with our customers, and that can scale easily. We should not fear quality. We should embrace it as the key to going faster and building better products, because quality is not a roadblock, it's the accelerator. So we need to kill that misconception. And I don't know who you are in there, but if you come from industry or and I'm talking to industry people, I think that they should consider experimenting with the digital's modularity, right? And the iterative thinking that we propose in product design. And I think these approaches align with the faster, more adaptive ways of our world, right? The digital world, which operates under different physics and rules. So there you have it. I think we have the power to shape a future where digital and industry don't just coexist, they elevate each other. And the future is ours to craft. Thank you very much.
Sandrine, that was awesome. Thanks a lot. What an insight into the whole industry. That was fascinating from our perspective. We have 3 questions in the parking lot. Would you be still available for those?
I am personally, and I'm sorry for taking so long.
Perfectly fine. Okay, so the first one is in the chat. Extending the method you described to scale artisanship, would you provide guidance on making the business case in advance for scaling artisanship, in addition to making arguments that appeal to reason not explicitly connected to business outcomes?
So let me see which one. Oh yeah, extending the method you described to scale this artisanship. Would you provide guidance on making the business case? Oh yes, in advance for scaling artisanship, in addition to making arguments that appeal to reason. No, of course. But you have to, yeah, it makes sense. And I understand why this question. I understand that people doing the work, they're convinced already. Okay, they're convinced of already, and the problem is convincing leaders and boards and investors that they need to do quality. It's complicated. That's my mission. That's why I'm writing these books. That's why I'm talking at conferences. But I think that the way to make the case for it is to try on a smaller scale. To find to try it like Syria, not on the main product. To create success stories within your company. That's the first thing that I've done in the past, and it's actually brought some result. I can't guarantee it will work perfectly in your company, because it all depends on who are the leaders, the market conditions, and what the company your company situation is. But of course, right? But start on a smaller scale, try it with different people, and share, don't hesitate to share the stories, the success stories with your managers. I know, for instance, I'm working with someone right now in France, and she's telling me, said, I'm passionate about this. I really want to do it, but I don't know how to engage everyone, and not just my managers, my own team members. I don't know how to. Everybody's like settled, and they don't want to. How do I do that? How can I do that? So I told her, you take one tool at a time. You try one thing. You can't go wrong, because at some point or another, you're going to have to build a roadmap. You're going to have to tell people, to show that things are moving forward and everything. Take one tool. I said, take the customer radar chart and start try to understand who your customers really are, how the market is changing. Do this. Try to learn something, because when you have the arguments and the facts, people are more willing to listen to you. Convincing with just words doesn't work, because people will not budge unless they see facts. That's the first thing. And the second thing, and the third thing, everybody needs to walk their own path. So, when they're far from this, then you can start giving them a book. And then trying to convince them by showing them, the theory behind this. But nothing prevents you from trying at a small scale. That's my answer.
Okay, question number 2. How would you compare and contrast the approach you described using spider charts and measurable design constraints with Tony Ulrich's outcome-driven innovation and jobs to be done?
the point is not to compare one or the other, but a job to be done is a problem that you're resolving for a customer. Let's start with this one. In Build to Sell, I talk about job to be done. A job to be done to me is a customer segment. Okay. It's not a persona. It's not whatever. It's like a job to be done is progress that someone wants to achieve in specific circumstances and according to a very specific social, emotional, and functional constraints. That's what a job is. And that's how I start. So the first, I didn't show you these. I only showed you 3 practices in there. But in my book, I'm presenting more than a dozen. And one of the first one that I present is the job to be done. Think of your product as a set of jobs to be done, ideally not 15, because if you start with 15 jobs to be done, then you're spreading your efforts thin and you're probably going to miss your target. But a job to be done is the problem you want to resolve. It's a segment. And within that segment, you have to understand what are the most stable preferences. The stable preferences are those quality criteria, okay, characteristics, that people will look at when they're shopping around for a solution. They're the non-negotiables. So you look at your problem, your segment, you say, okay, this is the segment, this is a job they're trying to resolve, and this is, what is really important for them that we can't miss. That's where the quality characteristic fits, okay? And the problem-oriented approach is the same thing. It's at the high level. What I'm showing is, now you understand the problem. How do you create that bridge between the problem and the technologies that you have to develop to make sure that the technologies actually fit that? And the performance, the critical performances actually are they act as a guardrail for design because they are the perfect mapping of those customer key preferences and the job to be done. You see, it's really all lined up, like I showed you. So, it's totally complementary. I'm pretty much proposing to add those 2 steps.
Okay, and there is a final one. Your approach seems quite simple when you are launching a new company. What are your recommendations to help shift the mindset of an already existing company?
How much time do we have here? All right, exactly. I work with the top leader. I've written this book, Build to Sell, to show what is the approaches for people creating products, anybody, entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs who are looking for their market fit, who don't even know if their product is valid yet. For those entrepreneurs who basically have found their market fit, but are trying to scale, they don't know how to do it, or those people who have scaled and they got to a point where it's crazy and they're stagnating, right? So, and within these companies, you have different profiles, different people, the POs, the tech, and all that, and they all have a role to play, and that the book is for that. But I also work as what is called the lean sensei personally. I'm talking about my own experience, right? And I work directly with a leader. Okay, the leader, because the conceiving product using lean engineering is not enough. You have to deploy, if I want to say, diffuse this craftsmanship spirit everywhere in the company, and it starts with the big boss. Okay, the top leader needs to learn this approach themselves, and that's what I'm advocating. So if you're a new company and you have an interest in succeeding, you want to try something innovating, then try from the beginning. Build your chief engineering practice and start building quality inside your processes. If you're an already established company, then you have to start with a boss. That doesn't mean that you cannot do it locally, because I have lots of people who want to do it. They do it, but if you want to transform the company, then it can only happen with the leaders. And that's where my practice comes into play, because I've learned this the hard way. Sorry.
Sandrine, that was fantastic. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for entertaining us, and it's really interesting to see how many people joined and stayed. This is very uncommon. I usually take notes on how many people are available at what moment at time. This is a small group, but a very dedicated group listening to you.
Thank you so much to everyone, by the way.
What else can we do besides buying a book?
I'm a serial entrepreneur, by the way. I love starting new products and businesses. And I started a new company called Tactique. As a matter of fact, here, let me go to the last slide. I added this because you told me I could, so I did. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I edited at the last second. If you go to my site called tactique.com, we provide training sessions, training of all kinds, different hybrid, fully digital, hybrid, like remote, and also in situ, inside, on site, inter and intra enterprise as well. So to learn all these techniques, to learn the techniques that I described today, and to learn the techniques of transforming a company as well. So voila. And actually, I have a 2-day workshop that introduces the basics, what I presented today and more, in London. The next one is in London on December 3rd. I have a few spots left. And in 2 days, deep dive. It's a game. It's fun. We have, if you're interested, you can come. And it's that one is in person, but soon enough I will have I already have it, but I'm refining it right now, the remote version, and that one will be spread over a few weeks.
That sounds interesting, given the diverse locations that we cover with the members of this community. So if you could keep me posted for the remote one, I will then make sure that everyone will learn about it.
Thank you so much, Stefan.
Thank you so much, Sandrine. It was pretty awesome and different perspective, So we're talking about heuristic approaches to life and fixing problems and figuring out what is worth building. And I think this is a very good way of doing that. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And frankly, I don't know you, all the participants, but if you're interested in connecting with me on LinkedIn and maybe chatting and sharing what you're trying, I'm really eager. And join our community so that we can learn from each other. Thank you so much.
Speaking of learning from each other, there won't be any meetups until the Hands-on Agile 2025, where Sandrine will also be joining us on the live stream. So there will be a break of about 3 months until February 4th. If you haven't yet signed up, please do so. More than 500 people already said, yeah, we want to do this, learn from each other, figure out where life is going to take us. So please join us. It's free, and it's a good community event, hopefully. Again, Sandrine,
yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we meet again next year. Take care.
Happy end of year. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.